You know what? I never know how to like start these videos. So I'm just here leaning on my stool because I never know how to start these videos. Anyway, thank you so much for making it to the channel. Now, before we get into all the nitty-gritty details of all this, I'm gonna need you to subscribe and hit that like button. This is the maintenance video. Been getting a lot of questions lately about the concept of going into maintenance for your fat loss goals because it's really important. Is this a maintenance video? Yes, but it's also not. Are we gonna get into like how to go maintenance? Yeah, but that's gonna take like maybe 20 seconds. This is a mindset video. This is a how to get this in the right place to go into maintenance, because most people are in the place where mentally it just completely fucks them over with the thought of going into maintenance. This is less of a maintenance video and more of the mindset you have to have going into maintenance. So here's the deal when it comes to maintenance. The biggest thing when it comes to going maintenance, it's so needed. It actually gets really deep because this is one of the things that causes a lot of people to sabotage. The goal isn't to diet forever. The goal is ultimately to maintenance. The goal is not to be on a perpetual diet for the rest of your life. And a lot of you watching this have been in that place. The goal is ultimately to maintenance. Think of it this way: if you have all these issues around going maintenance, you'll never make it because you continuously live in fear of adding calories back and not being in a deficit and not being on your diet. Think of it this way: if you're scared to go maintenance, if in your head the goal is to be on a diet, the issue is this leads to your headspace being the goal is to be on a diet all the time. Then you become addicted to dieting. So what happens when you lose all of your weight where you don't need a diet anymore? Well, if the goal is to diet and you're addicted to dieting, now you'll subconsciously gain all your weight back so you can go on your diet again. This is the reason most people constantly yo-yo all the time and always gain their weight back. The goal is not to diet forever. The goal is to maintenance. So let's talk about the misconceptions behind maintenance. Misconception number one, it has to be done at certain times. There's no certain time to go maintenance. You can do maintenance literally whenever you want. Misconception number two, you have to hit your goal first. You do not have to hit your goal first, because here's the reality. Most people's goals are rather big. Most people's goals aren't, I want to lose 4 pounds. Most people's goals are, I want to lose 40 pounds or 80 pounds or 100 pounds. But then think of it this way. If your goal is to lose, let's say 50 or 60 pounds, but let's say that takes you 2 years. Are you realistically going to try to diet and be in a deficit from now for the next 2 years? No wonder you keep falling off. No wonder most people sabotage. The next misconception, that you're gonna gain all your weight back. This is by far the most popular concern most people have. Most people, to be honest with you, are terrified that if they are not dieting in a deficit, they are going to rebound and gain all their weight back, and that couldn't be, again, further from the truth. You have to understand this, kind of simplifying the science of it. This is you and your deficit. If you've been losing weight, been losing inches, your clothes have been fitting better, progress of any sort has been happening, you've been in a deficit successfully. What's the one thing that causes you to store body fat? A calorie surplus over an extended period of time. This is your maintenance. Well, you've been in a deficit, right? Right here. If you go maintenance and add, let's say 300, 400, 500, 600 calories back, that puts you at maintenance. A calorie surplus is what causes you to store fat, not maintenance. Just because you're adding calories back does not mean it puts you in a surplus. To be honest with you, if you've been dieting for a pretty long time, what happens is you've been in a deficit for so long, so your metabolic rate drops a little bit, so you add calories back and your body goes, whoa, I'm digging this. And then you start to increase your activity and you burn more. Now you're in a deficit again because your activity increased. And then you can chase this a little bit and slowly over time get your calories even higher, which means when you've been dieting for a really long time, unconsciously, you burn less calories. This is not starvation mode. Your body doesn't magically store fat because it's eating less. But what your body does have a tendency to do from months and months and months and months and years of dieting, it starts to move less. When you've been dieting for a long time, you get tired. What do you do when you're tired? You move less. Your workouts aren't as good. You're less inclined to go on walks. You'll physically blink less. You'll fidget less. So this is why when you add calories back, you unconsciously move more. Now, let's talk about where to use maintenance. Number one, during crazy times, when life isn't so great, most people just say, I'm an all or nothing person, and then quit, fall off the wagon, throw in the towel, whatever you want to call it. Versus maintenance means you are holding steady. There's a big difference between saying, fuck it, and falling off versus going between maintenance and maintaining where you're at. Maintenance doesn't mean regression. This is the difference. Most people in their heads think deficit equals good, anything outside of deficit equals bad. But maintenance is still progress because you're still holding steady. Another time I like to use maintenance is when people start to plateau. Here's where most people go wrong when plateaus hit. Most people go into a deficit, they lose some weight, then they plateau, then they go calories lower, and then they chase this as seeing how low they can get it. Then before they know it, they're eating next to nothing and they still can't lose. Versus the first sight of plateauing, I add calories back every single time. The other place I like to use maintenance is if you've been consistently losing for 4, 5, 6 months. Generally speaking, you don't always want to be in a deficit for crazy long periods of time. Okay, so how to do it? How to go maintenance? This part's really simple. You're literally just going to add probably 300 to 500 calories back into your diet per day until you quit losing consistently. That's it. Let's talk about the mindset going into maintenance because I want to prepare you for a few things. First thing, the scale is going to spike. It's an absolute must. It is going to. If you're in a deficit losing inches, the scale will still spike. There's no way to get around it. It will always spike. This is why it's important, if we're using the scale as a metric, to look at it the correct way and weigh in every single day as just data, then look at your trends and averages and things like that. And if you can't do that right now, it's okay. Then we need to not use the scale at all. And if you're wanting to fix your relationship with a scale, I actually have my Psychology of Fat Loss course. It's in the description, which one of the videos in it is about how to get bulletproof around the scale. Number 2, you're probably going to be worried. You're probably going to freak out and go, oh, especially if you're in the camp, oh, I have to be in a deficit, I have to diet, otherwise I'm going to store copious amounts of fat. Adding calories back is literally going against that old story. It's going against that old identity, which means it's deaf to that old story, which means as you add calories back, your brain and eyes are going to play tricks on you, which means you're probably going to get worried, scared, freaked out, which is why it's really important to know the truth and keep that truth close to your heart right now. One of my favorite things to do with clients is when we're in this place doing things the right way that's totally different than what they've been doing years ago in the past, is write a letter to yourself. I know it sounds corny, but hear me out. Because there's one thing me telling you, hey, chill the fuck out, it's not fat, it's fine, but it does something different for you unconsciously when you tell yourself that. So what I want you to do, if you know you're gonna get fearful, you know you're gonna get anxiety, you know you're gonna attach meanings to things that don't exist, you know you're gonna like go ape shit essentially, write a letter to yourself of everything you're gonna need to hear. Hey, look, it's okay. I know you're freaking out. It's totally normal, but don't forget what Jared said. Don't forget that this is totally normal. This is fine, and it's not fat, and this has to happen. This is gonna make things sustainable. Whatever you need to write in that letter that's gonna make yourself feel good, give yourself the reassurance, because then when you have your freak out, you go, oh yeah, I wrote that letter. Next, you're going to think you're gaining when you're not. This is a big deal. Think about it. You've gone from dieting for how long? You've gone from extreme stuff for how long? Your brain is going to confuse as getting fat. This is the epitome of going against old conditioning. A great example is my 2 female dogs, Nika and Lily. When we got them, they have some baggage. They have some old conditioning from old owners who didn't treat them so well. You would go to pet them and they'd wince. They thought you were gonna hurt them because that's what their old owners did. And it took them a long time of having some very uncomfortable pets. I'd go to pet them and they'd wince, and I would lovingly pet them, and over time they go, oh, I guess this isn't so bad after all. You're going against old conditioning, so it's totally normal for you to be worried, scared, think you're gaining weight and you're not. This is why that letter is so important. And also know that all the what ifs are going to come flying at you. What if this doesn't work? What if I sabotage all my progress? What if I don't lose the weight? What if I'll never make it? You have to understand, this is the old self just freaking out. This is literally the old version of you just throwing a hissy fit, scared. You could even write a letter to that version of you and like, hey, look, I know you're scared, but it's okay. I see you. I hear you. I get why you're scared, but trust me, we've got this. Write a letter to that version of you. That might be the 11-year-old version of you when all this started. That might be the 15-year-old version of you when friends at school said you have to lose weight and to fit in. We have all of our weight loss stuff and our fear around food and gaining weight tied to most of our childhood. And it might be helpful if you do some inner child work around that. It might be helpful. Tell that version of you what you needed to hear. I see you, I hear you, but hey, look, you don't have to do that anymore. And I'm telling you, it'll be a game changer. All right, now let's get into specific strategies on how to go into maintenance. Number 1, decide your numbers. When it comes to maintenance, especially if you have some mindset issues around it and some baggage around food, you're gonna want a specific plan so you can stick with it. Number 2, decide how long you're gonna do this. What most people do is they go, I'm gonna go maintenance. And in like 3 days, they go, okay, I'm good. I'm gonna go back to what I was doing out of fear. If every decision you make is out of fear and anxiety and worry, then we have some issues. Number 3, know your worries and what ifs. So right now, what worries and what ifs are coming to your mind? Is it, what if I gain my weight back? What if I mess up all my progress? What if this doesn't work? Whatever it is, write them down, call them out, get a piece of paper, write these things down. Now we can handle them. And guess what? Put those in that letter to yourself. Here's the other part. Know your fears are irrational. They're not true. Hold space for them, journal about them, meditate on them. Just because you think it and feel it doesn't mean it's true. Just because you think you're storing fat doesn't mean you are. Just because you feel big doesn't mean you are big. Here's the other piece right now. Data is your friend. Whatever metrics you've been doing, or if you haven't been doing any, start doing them. Pictures, absolutely. Measurements, absolutely. If you can do daily weigh-ins without letting it fuck with your head, do those as well. And the last piece, just do it. You living in fear of not dieting is going to cause so many issues into the future, but also look at your past. How many years have you been dieting? How many life things have you missed out on because you haven't fixed this relationship with food and this relationship with dieting? All right, guys, that is the maintenance video. If you stuck around this long, I really appreciate it. If you would, be sure and subscribe to the channel. Give me a thumbs up if you don't mind. Check the description for the podcast, my free course, coaching, things like that. But otherwise, I'll talk to you guys next time.